welcome to another great interview for the 2023 Business Connection Virtual Summit. Today I am here with Dustin. I am Bill Marshall, and we are discussing all about cybersecurity and IT and what it takes to be safe in the digital world, since it is amazingly huge nowadays. It's definitely something we all need to think about. So, Dustin, if you could please tell us who you are, what you do, and a brief little intro into what we're going to talk about.
So first, thank you for having me. I talk about this subject a lot. I really enjoy it. So my name is Dustin Cucinotta. My business is based out of Morristown, New Jersey. I've been doing IT since 1999, and I started out as a designer back in the 80s, and then had learned computers just because that's how we started to draw, and then learned how to program, learned how to put them together because nobody else knew back then. And so I've been doing this for a long time. I really have a lot of experience in just real world scenarios, not just out of a book. So that's me in a nutshell. My name is acad.us.com is the name of the company. And yeah, so do we want to go right into cybersecurity, or
Yep,
how do you want to start?
absolutely. So, I think the first thing we need to understand is what is cybersecurity? What are things that are out there? Like we all have heard of Norton. I mean, like the basic ones of cybersecurity, but like what are we talking about when it comes to like that level of like, okay, we have client information we need to protect. What does it mean?
Right. So cybersecurity is a pretty broad stroking term. It's like a buzzword. Everybody just uses it. It's really the same difference of, how secure is your car or your house? And, whether you have a screen door, a regular door, whether you lock the door, so cybersecurity, think of it as more of the same security you would use in your house. And, some people say, well, I just go through the back door of the garage and it's really fine because nobody has that code. And so there's ways to get in. We all know none of our houses are impenetrable. So it's the same thing with cybersecurity. There's so many different ways that they can get in. They can get in, with phishing emails. And phishing emails is an email that's basically, asking for your information for some reason because you have a FedEx package coming. Well, it's really not a FedEx package. It really has nothing to do with FedEx. They're just trying to get your name and address, which seems kind of benign. Well, who cares? Everybody can get my name and address. But this database starts to build up on you, and next thing you know, they have your phone number, your address, your place of work, what street you grew up on. Like here's a common one that is a phishing. I consider it a phishing attack. We're on Facebook. There's a photo that comes up and says, click like if you remember what this photo is. And it might be like a photo of an old movie. And this is like, some old movie from who knows when, right? The 70s, the 80s. And you're like, oh, I was a kid. I remember that movie. And you click like on it. Well, now they know your demographic, right? So now they know that you're, probably in your 50s, and that, you grew up with this, this was one of your favorite shows. And maybe there's some psychology behind having that as your favorite show. You might lean more towards, the left or the right. You might, it really tells a lot to the person who's putting that photo up, what kind of ads that they should show you. So now, is that a horrible thing? No, not really. They're not going to steal your money with it. But I just want people to be aware that there's so many different things out there that is harvesting your information. And most of the time, it's just so people can sell you things. And believe it or not, I don't mind that. Me personally, I don't mind it. Makes it easier for me to find stuff that I like. The part where it jumps the shark for me is when they start to use this information to steal your identity or steal your money without your knowledge, right? So that's the biggest difference. So you want to know what movies I grew up with, big deal. But when you start using that information to kind of dig more into my life and maybe try to figure out those, you know, um, when you fill out those passwords and you have to answer those questions, like what was the your home at like what was your home street that you grew up on? Your like everybody knows the whole mother's maiden name thing. But now they ask you like what high school did you go to? What street did you grow up on? What was your first car? Things like that that they ask you in all of these surveys so that they can hack into your password. Well, you could be inadvertently answering these questions to make it easier for people to then hack into your bank account. And just to be aware of that. Myself again, I don't mind people trying to figure out what I like and don't like. It makes my shopping go a little quicker, and I'm busy. I got stuff to do, and if they figure out what I like before I do, I'm all in. I don't really care. But I want to hit the buy button. I don't want somebody else hitting the buy button for me. And that's where I personally go. So
Yeah.
that's cybersecurity, right? Is just being the knowledge of the things out there that that are harvesting, and just be aware. Like you're not going to block all of them. You're just not. It's almost impossible. But the big ones, like just be aware that they're there and who you're giving your information to and why. And I figure if people can at least have that, they really will be, instead of being scared of it, but more of an understanding of, well, why did I get this ad? I was just talking about it with my friends yesterday,
Yeah.
you know, as opposed to why is my bank account negative $5,000? So there's a big difference between
Yeah.
the two, right? Like I don't mind
Abs-
getting the ad. I just want to make sure I don't lose $5,000 in the process.
yeah. So
So
when it,
that's the difference.
yeah. So there's obviously a lot of different ways that people are trying to get our information, and we need to be aware of how these things are trying to attack us. And like you said, have a general knowledge of how people are trying to get our information. So besides the most common one that we all know about with the firewall, what are other things that we can start doing on the employee level, on our computers that all communicate to each other internally level? What are some other ways that we can bring this level of security you're talking about, and like what are other ways that we can start protecting ourselves? It might either be complicated or simple.
So the super try to keep it as brief as possible. I can talk about this forever.
Yeah.
You need to have multi-factor authentication, otherwise known as MFA, sometimes known as two-factor authentication. Your passwords are your passwords. Hopefully, they're not all the same. Please don't have them all the same. Get a password manager. They're free. Most of them are. And if they're not, it'll be the best $5 you ever spent. But the multi-factor authentication comes in a variety of forms. Most people know it as they get a text message. So that's the biggest thing. Even myself, I have about 50 different what they call MFAs that I monitor that come in that, when I try to log into my own systems. So that's the biggest thing is when you see this thing like Facebook just made it mandatory for everybody to have MFA to log into Facebook. They just did it. Just to give you an idea, in certain parts of Europe, not all everywhere in Europe, but for certain parts, if you go to a gas station and you pay for gas with your credit card, you swipe the card, you get an instantaneous text message or MFA message on your app. It says, "Is this you at Exxon trying to charge 52 euros or whatever the price is?" I have no idea what the ratio is, but whatever, and it asks you, so this is where the charge is taking place. This is how much it is. This is what time it is. And you're standing there at the pump and it will not accept the charge until you hit the accept button on your phone. And that's just the way it is over there because that's how rampant it is. And we in the United States are very behind the eight ball. So I ask people to be proactive. When they see the option, whenever they set up any account, I don't care if it's Fandango, like set up multi-factor authentication. They do have it. You just have to turn it on. So that's the biggest thing that I tell people to do. There's a lot of other things that we could get into, but to answer your question, that's the biggest one that people should do.
Okay. Definitely. I myself am guilty of, oh, it's annoying, I don't feel like dealing with it, but I definitely understand exactly what you're talking about, with that being a benefit, especially when it comes to our business. We need to keep that in mind, that even if it's not on the personal side, it still definitely needs to be on the business side, because it's not just us that's liable, especially if we have client information that we're trying to protect, on our computers, or any kind of digital things, even just our CRMs, that we keep track of all their information in. So it's definitely, great. And when it comes to, I think the one other thing I do want to touch on is when it comes to our employees, what are some things that we can train them to keep an eye out for or do outside of the, multi-factor thing, because we just talked about it. What are some other things we should be telling them to do and follow in order to keep our, business safe?
I think one of the common things that employees get themselves in trouble with is phishing emails. And phishing emails can come from a variety of, items. It can even come from what seemingly looks like your boss or the chief financial officer sending you an email that says to change my bank account and routing number to my direct deposit from my bank. Okay. Probably isn't them. They're not trying to do that. And if in doubt, I know this is sometimes a funny concept with people, but these emails, when they come in asking for money or a significant change in circumstance in some way, uh, pick up the phone, physically call the human being by dialing their number.
Yeah.
And if they don't answer, leave a message. I know it's crazy. Leave a message and wait for them to call you back. And people won't be mad. I guarantee you, your boss will not be mad at you for double checking that it's him before you transfer $20,000 to some other bank account. And she's like, well, thanks for checking, but yes, I do need you to do that right away. So that as an employer to an employee, to really teach them it's okay to question. Like people are like, oh my, I don't want to question what they're doing, or they're on vacation, because that's usually when it happens. And
Hmm.
people say to me, well, how do they know that, my boss is on vacation? I know how, because their auto reply is on their email.
Yeah.
So usually a good hacker who wants a lot of money will be following you for months and sending you BS emails about, like, white shirts or whatever, right? And then once they get a bounce back that you're out of the office and won't return till August, whenever, they're like, okay, this is my time. So I'm going to send, now they know everybody in the organization. They know who the bookkeeper is. They know everybody is. They can find all this information on your website. And I guarantee you it's your first initial last name at whatever the website is. So now they have your email address. They're going to email and say, hi, I'm on vacation. I don't have very good access to my computer right now, and I really need you to do me a favor. Can you do it? And they don't tell you what. They're trying to see if you're going to respond. And you're going to respond and say, hey, Joe, I hope you're having a great vacation. What's going on? What can I help you with? Hey, could you, this is embarrassing, but I need a couple of dollars. Could you do me a favor? Could you go down to, like, accounting and ask them if they could, make sure that my bonus check was processed to this bank account, because I don't see the money yet. And then they go down and, like, yeah, sure. They go down and whatever. And, so this actually has happened. This
Yeah.
isn't just a made up story. And there was some point of the conversation, I think the person who caught a, like, kind of misspelling or something. And they knew that the boss was like a grammar freak and
Hmm.
would, like, have never written the email that way, or just there was something about it. And sometimes you can tell, because a lot of times these emails are written by people who English is not their primary language, and they will, flounder a little bit, even though these are all templated emails. Nobody's writing these from scratch. They just copy and paste them and put them in. And and that's how they caught it. They said,
Hmm.
there's no way. And so they had his personal assistant call him while he was on vacation and ask him, and he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. I don't need anybody transferring anything." So but it was steps away from them clicking that button. So the key is open communication with your employees,
Yeah,
making sure that they know that if anything comes through that's anything about money or moving accounts, to just pick up the phone and ask them to make sure it's legit is really what I would do. I mean, people are so worried about. I wouldn't even text them. I would just physically call him or her to make sure that it's okay.
absolutely. And that's definitely, we had a couple interviews that we did earlier where we talked about onboarding employees and things that you would need to have in order to train them. And this should be one of the trainings that is very well focused on, especially if the person is in the financial department, when you bring those employees on. And especially with the way that the world is going, where almost everything is in some form of digital, it is extremely important to make sure that we're all really aware of this and taking it seriously. I mean, we all hear about the big companies that get held hostage with ransomware and things like that. And we're like, oh, we're so small, they won't necessarily target us, but they're
Yeah, and
testing it on.
I'm gonna jump in on that point.
Yeah,
That is a so when they do go after those big customers, they test it on the small ones.
yeah,
So they test all of these theories on the people with 10 and
mhm,
under employees. And people with 10 and under employees, your payroll is probably still, if each employee is making 50 to 80 grand plus benefits, you still have a significant amount of cash flow. You
yeah,
might not think that you're like Google or Microsoft, but that's a lot of money to you.
yeah,
And, so yes, they test. Hackers will often test their tactics on very small companies, under 10 people, to see if it works. And if they have good success rate, then they go banging on the big boys' doors to try to get the, $1 million ransomware and things like that. So
yeah,
yeah, so just because you're small doesn't mean that you're actually more of a target.
yeah. And I think that's something to really drive home. So I really think we covered a lot. We definitely went through what it is, like when it when it in the digital world, and the landscape, how it's changing, and the different things that we should start doing to protect ourselves. And obviously, there's an immense amount more that we could be doing or need to do. So, Dustin, if people need to find out more about that, how can they reach out to you to have those conversations?
So you can call me at my direct cell phone number. More than welcome to call me on my cell phone number is 609-703-3000. My office number is 856. I have to look so I never call my office. 369-1972. So 856-369-1972. And or Dustin at acad.us.com. I'm happy to come in and have a meeting with you in person or remote, whatever you like, and we just show you all the different things, and also how you can save money by adding security to your company. So we can talk about that too. But thank you so much.
Absolutely.
This has been good. I really want to get the word out there so people understand. The worst phone calls I receive are the ones telling me that they think something has happened. I would much rather receive phone calls of, I just hired 5 more people and I need new systems for them.
Yeah.
I love those phone calls. I don't like the other ones because
Yeah.
they're very angry. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I definitely want people to call me for a good reason, but I'll help you with the bad ones too.
Absolutely. So thank you so much again, and thank you everyone for watching another great interview for the 2023 Business Connection Summit. Again, I am Bill Marshall, and we will see you all in the networking event tonight. Bye.